Before going on and discussing the mesial root, I wanted to have a little prologue to discuss a little bit about sectioning, because if you have some knowledge about how teeth are sectioned, it can help with the interpretation. We're going to be looking at the mesial root next, but there are some considerations in how the tooth is sectioned that are important to understand. So the sectioning, as you recall, we take a disc and we section longitudinally along the longitudinal axis, and then we take a razor blade and we hopefully split the section into two halves. So in a broad root like this, the sectioning presents a problem because you have to cut fairly deep into the root. If you look at the sections on this case of reeds, the top section is one half of it, the bottom section is the other half. And to get a good split, you really have to section across the canal, and that presents a problem. So if you look at the way that you select the areas to examine, you have to be very careful that you're not examining areas where the sectioning disc has gone into the canal. So the way I choose the sections is I choose sections where the split is not encumbered by sectioning debris that gets put into the canal and mistaken for material that's left over from the irrigation procedure. So the selection of the sections is very important. Here you can see an example in an extracted tooth of the sectioning disc sectioning into the canal, and when that happens, debris from the sectioning goes into the canal, and so you have to be very careful in mistaking that debris for material that's left over from the irrigation procedure. So if you're able to section these without going into the canal, then you have essentially a virgin canal, but in a broad root, that is almost impossible. So in these, I hope these pictures give you an idea of what the problem is. Because you're doing this blind, you don't actually know where the canal is when you're sectioning the root. In a single root, it's easy because you can see, but in a broad multi-canal tooth, you're guessing where the canal might be. And when you section into the canal, then that section of the canal is not really of very much use because you have sectioning debris inside of it that you may mistake for material left over. For example, when you look at this is reed specimen. In the top canal, you can see the sectioning has not entered into the canal, and we get a very clean section. On the bottom, the sectioning has gone into the canal, and there you can see debris in the canal that you might mistake for material left over from the irrigation procedure. So I wanted you to have some understanding of how I select the areas to examine, because I want to avoid areas where there is this debris. So I'll give a couple of examples. There you can see in the lower canal, you can see where the sectioning disc went, and right where that area is, you can see debris in the canal. So I am inferring that debris comes from the sectioning of the tooth into the canal, and I want to avoid that area. So I'll try to show you two different examples. In area 11, the sectioning did not go into the canal, and we have a virgin canal that we infer is what looked like after the irrigation procedure was done. And when you actually go into that canal, you can actually see where Reed's instrument probably stopped. And this is what I infer is a true rendition of what the irrigation device, in this case it was a gentle wave, the effect of it on a virgin canal that had not really been touched by the instrument. There you can see the outline of the instrument, and there's still a smear layer present. So I hope this clarifies a little bit of how I select the areas to examine and the kind of inferences we're making. This is a higher mag view of that virgin canal, and you can see the effect of the irrigation device, the gentle wave here, on this, and it looks like the peritubular dentin has been pretty much removed. There is some predentin material still left, but it really looks kind of like the promotional material for the device. And there's been a considerable demineralization of the mineralized front with only very minor predentin present. If you go up in this area, or when we go to area 12, now that's the area where you can see where the sectioning disc stopped. And right where it stopped is a virgin canal, and we'll be interested in looking at what that dentin looks like. And then where it entered the canal, I want you to have a sense of what that debris actually looks like under the SEM. And here you can see this looks like that area was instrumented, so there is a smear layer present. And as you go through these sections on the site, it's worthwhile really taking a look at these. So there's been some demineralization on the instrumented part of the canal. It looks quite a bit different from the top canal that didn't have any instrumentation done to it, apparently. And now we're in where the debris was from the sectioning disc, and now you get a sense for just how much debris is present from the sectioning. So the lesson here is how the specimen is sectioned really can determine what you're observing, and you want to be careful in how the sectioning, how the sections are actually chosen. So next we're going to look at the mesial root with that knowledge of how it was sectioned.